Stand the flag of the United States of America and to the republic indivisible with liberty and justice for all.
Ryan Rogers,
Here.
Kevin Keeney, Alan Schneider,
Here.
Tom Sexton,
Here.
Lois Schneider, Kevin Mills.
First order of business is approving the sorry. Second by Sexton. All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Next up is the consent agenda. I'll make a motion to the consent agenda. 1 second. I did have a question on the expenditure. We had the tools that were on the visa for about 16 to 17. So it's
The fire department down there.
Just pull the email up from Chad.
all right.
It was fire department. Yep.
Also, the fertilizer and insecticide, is that for all over the town? Or is that-
It was for the parks. That was like the spraying that's done before Track Fest.
That's right.
If you find it later and you can.
Alan, the invoice for the tools was for a chainsaw, a battery for the chainsaw. It looked like a high torque impact wrench tool, an all-purpose work tool, all DeWalt with batteries.
We have not, I think it's like an asset, as some kind of asset management system would be a plus for us across not just vehicles, but tools and things like that would be helpful. So we could look into adding some kind of asset management tool that could be used by each department. I was also not made aware of this transaction, I guess this purchase until after the fact, so that's something we'll need to go over with Chad.
I do understand that some of it was in the sport utility vehicle. So they're being replaced. I can't say that every item on there was. I don't know if every battery they had was on there or. Yes, I have the
Yes,
invoice. Yeah. I believe it was 4. They're the
belt
ones
clip.
that they carry on. They carry on them. That was my understanding. Yeah.
Sure. Oh, yeah.
What I was told is that there was not anything lost other than the vehicle. So this, what, $1,679.97. I hadn't seen that transaction until we went through expenditures, last week, so that wasn't something that got prior approval, so.
Is that the
I
don't
think
know.
there's some of those pagers, I believe they have those on a like rotating basis as I don't know if how many it was.
Yeah, this is it's
Four.
4 G5 dual band voice pagers, and then there is a desktop charger with each one.
So I'm not sure what the replacement schedule is on that. Chad said he would be able to make it tonight. I asked him to, but
So 4 pagers, 4 chargers, and then it looks like there was a $75 programming fee. It's Raycom.
shouldn't have been. Because this would be, I mean, we'd only have 2 towers. I guess this doesn't sound like something associated with the sirens.
No.
Okay. I don't know. I think that might have been before I was here, Alan. Yeah.
I guess I would say with both of them being questionable and should work on it.
Yeah.
Have more of an explanation when it's, that's about $5,000. Which one of those two?
I'm assuming we'll pull on that. We'll give themselves that for the maybe we can cover it.
Yeah.
I'd say go ahead and pick up the next.
I think it's important.
Chad.
That's fair. Any other discussion? Those in favor say aye. Opposed? Right. Next up is a public forum. Any motion speaking from the forum? Yeah, I'll give you guys an update. Busy summer. Good to see you guys again. Sorry, been absent. It's not working well for me. Building 3 is complete. That was completed last time I was here. Building 2 is now done. Public health moved into. In a day, basically. That's pretty sweet. So now they're here in county on the property at Orchardville. The courthouse has the attorney's office being renovated. We're looking at September 1, a little more this 30 day. That would be done. Good. And then the engineering building. So place to there you go. The building showed up last right before last. Get those in. Other than that, it's just
Marcus, was it, so emergency management was recently approved to go under sheriff's department?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Can you give us an update on that?
Sure. So with the commission, basically the commission decided that it might be better, I guess. If the sheriff's department can have one of their deputies act as the emergency management coordinator. And, the commission talked it over and they thought that that would be a good way to go. Other counties have done that. In fact, Mr. Lester, the chief of police at Washington, was that right came from. So it has been done. It is being done in multiple places. Some people go back to having an emergency management coordinator after they try the sheriff route. So they thought that it would be a good thing. So the commission made a recommendation for supervisor with one exception, 4 out of 5 of those. I guess we're gonna find out. And it's a year-to-year thing. So if I think in the future, if we determine that maybe there's a better way of handling it, change our minds. Right now, the commission is the one that recommended it to the board to approve.
I will say, I think, at least I'm fairly optimistic about it, given that most of our, emergency conversations or, response things have gone through the safety center. And I think it could work as a natural pairing there, so.
Well, I would think, yeah, that's kind of what I think too. And the benefit too is that the one benefit is kind of they can have cross training going on between deputies so that the emergency coordinators can, for whatever reason. So, and kind of a 24/7 kind of thing, which
Nice to have.
nice to have. Yeah, you never know when those things are going to happen. Available. So we'll see. I'm optimistic as well. Jack is probably not optimistic. We'll see. It should be good. I think that's good, just most of it. But our IT stuff is going really well. Just to kind of give you an update on that, we changed how we do IT. So we have a director now doing a fantastic job. Public health was probably as seamless as they can come. Computers getting plugged in and are already hooked up, which was great. Taking that job of the entire county using one system, no more 5 departments with 5 different email addresses. So that's good. We're working on HR, county-wide HR, which we help the supervisors do employee evaluations. We have several employees that have never had. Most of them report to supervisors, so that's something that I've been pushing on to. And then building the ground, working on that as well. Kind of holistic view of property for the county instead of shotgun. There's lots of shotgun effects going on in the county. Other than that, it's good to see those.
Good to see you.
Everything going well here. I've been reading the notes and you guys are moving along with some really cool projects. Congratulations. That's new possible.
So,
Good to see you.
thank you. Next up on the agenda, we've got the hearing for the acquisition of office. Yeah, open up public hearing. Motion to open public hearing. Second. Okay, roll call vote, open that public hearing. Roger said, aye. Keen, aye. Sexton, Schneider, Mills, aye. Hearing is now open at 6:15 PM. Did anyone wish to speak?
Not receive any comments prior. So
So you're. Sure. So. Suppose the middle one. All right, so we have a motion by Keely, second by Stefan. And that, Mills. Yes. Schneider, Sexton. King, Anderson. It's closed at 6:16 p.m. Move on to item 6B on the agenda, which is the resolution to acquire that question. Anything you want to cover there?
Nope. I think, let's see. Did these resolutions get put out of order? There's vacate on 18. And it looks like the vacate got put in there twice. I'm not sure. Effectively it is the same. We can correct it. It's the resolution is the exact same, except instead of vacate, it says to acquire on that. So, and I'm not sure how it got put in there twice, but that's all right.
Want the resolution on this one to acquire?
This one would be to acquire. Yep.
I'll make the motion to pass resolution 2025-50. In the acquiring author is parcel E, author is parcel D, is that correct?
Correct.
Discussion. Now we'll vote on that resolution. Rogerson. That's final. Mills, Mike. That's approved. Item 7 on the agenda, we've got the referring to vacate parcel E. Motion to open the public hearing.
Make that motion.
I'll second. Motion by Sexton, second by Carson, they go roll call vote to open the public hearing. Starting with Mills, Schneider, Sexton, actually, when I Rogerson. Well, right. They came down, public hearing is open. Any comments? No.
Maybe nothing.
Submit. Which second by Rogerson. Any discussion? We'll take a vote to close. Rogerson, Keeney, Sexton, Schneider, Mills, Close at 6:18. And go on to that resolution.
I'll make a motion to pass resolution 2025-51 in vacate. Convey author's parcel E of author's parcel D.
On second. As motion by Sexton, second by Mills. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll take a vote on that. Mills, Schneider, Sexton, Keeney, and Rogerson. Resolution accepted. Anything else on loose items?
Be it.
On the agenda, we've got our discussion on the wellness center. We've got Maggie Burger from the Spear Financial, who I believe is on the line with us. Can you hear me okay, Maggie? Sure. Queries. All right.
Some of the application questions. So this is Riverside. We have just not done a bond issue, for you guys in the past. You know, we talked about, this wellness center for a couple of years. We've been working with Cole, to identify some different debt service schedules. The ones that are presented to you tonight, I think in your package, are $8 billion, general obligation corporate purpose funds. We're taking them seriously in 2027 based upon when potentially, you know, you would vote on this November, when the project would get to final bidding and design. The series numbers, just so everyone knows, is just big year, the actual calendar year in which the bonds themselves would be sold. So just everyone, as a question, I think we've talked about bonds before, how different instruments. They could be considered a loan, a debt, any kind of, compensation that the city would enter into to borrow money. So, you know, it will be difficult for a city to go to a local bank and borrow $8 million. There are different ways that banks, local banks have to collateralize municipal type debt. So there's a bond market out there, and bonds that we typically sell to an organization like this. They are sold on a competitive basis, meaning that the construction bid, there's time and place, and everyone has that. You know, every underwriter, every institutional investor, fast across the nation have that right to bid on that and kind of all or nothing type situation. We think it is a proper way to do that because it can get you the lowest interest rates. It yields some competition amongst underwriters, and you're working with people, underwriters, and institutional investors. Like I was talking about, that are in the bond market every day. They know where bond interest rates should be. These are investments to the people that are buying these bonds. The $8 million bonds that we're talking about, and you have some language and also this is general. This I'm going to say general. It's just being that you must vote on that amount because the amount is so high. If the amount was $4,000 or less, you will be able to do that within public hearing. But anything over that amount right now, general corporate purpose, needs to have a referendum. The legislature a couple years ago passed the House Bill 718 that you can only vote on referendum items at November November elections. So some language was proposed by Mr. Danos. I think you guys would work through that. That's pretty standard language, talking about the purpose and cost of constructing, furnishing, equipment, just looking at center fitness facility included with the associated rights, infrastructure and parking improvement. So we had a long discussion, and you guys can definitely, talk that over and respond back to I made that language is what we want to move forward with, inputting that on the ballot. Part of what gets done is the amount that has to be shown on that ballot. It could be, anything up to what your debt capacity allows for. As we've spoken with Cole, we believe that number, probably what you're looking at, and I think what you discussed prior is $8 million. That's not to exceed. I just want to point out that we likely are not going to borrow any money until this project has actually gone out to bid. And you put it on the ballot in November, you have at least a super majority, which is 60% or more approval rate. Then you're going to authorize to issue those bonds whenever we don't issue them. And likely given today's interest rate market and project costs, we likely would not, ask you to go issue that debt. We wouldn't go issue that debt until you have a project in hand. Until you're ready to set that project in. You maybe lined up and grant opportunities that accompany cash, things like that. And it can be done just a little bit beyond that. Once you're authorized to issue building and getting $8 million of bonds is going to be a problem. We sell that and that size of bond is due all the time in the state of Iowa. We just don't want you to enter into an obligation or a debt or you would actually have a bid in the end. That is an exception to the end for the project. Today's interest rate market, we've got these priced down at about a 4.5% interest rate. I think that's a little high, where we're at today, but again, we try to be a little conservative on our projections, knowing that it could be a year, it could be a year and a half before you would issue this debt. We just kind of want to, hedge a little bit on what we think of this to be able to be a slow market. 4.5 is probably a little high. We are proposing that would be over the $48 million that you use a 15-year maturity. We can go up as long as it's 20-year maturity. The 15-year maturity just fits well with what repayment sources are going to be, and like the Coles identify and what we've looked at those potential repayment sources, and done a little, just checking them back on to make sure that we're agreeing with the numbers, and we do. That I will present to you. That peak number is probably around $746,000 a year.
I did just email them out to everyone, so that they're and Laserfish, they didn't somehow support in the packet.
Don't use statements from hotel towns and other sources to pay this debt service. We also, because of House File 718, have to provide bond counsel that receive the inverter. A version of that same $80 million schedule that says what would the overall impact be in the city order to utilize a debt service levy. Again, this is just a piece of House File 718 that says we have to provide this, we have to provide this at public hearings, even though the city may say we have no desire and plan to apply anything to debt service levy. We have to show what that impacts it, either in both the tax levy and what the effect would be on a home that's located within the city limits of Riverside at $100,000 value. So that's just a little different than why we maybe have two schedules, or why we have to show the other schedule. It does not mean that the city is intending to use any sort of debt service levy. It really is just following some new language that was approved back in 2023. As part of the legislative session.
Has everyone been able to find them?
I can answer any questions about that. Answer any other questions about the bonding process for the referendum process. As you prepared and embarked on that this
Yeah, it's in the docs I just sent. Somehow, so we had them in our meeting packet file, and I'm not sure what happened when it exported, but they somehow didn't get included in the combined packet. But I just sent an email out to everyone there.
Yes. The difference that we see going up would be approximately $287 a year. So for every $100,000 worth of value of home review, if you were to levy for all of that $746,000, even the tax impact $100,000 home would be about $287 per 100,000. So that's information again in most situations, because I will say most cities do abate part, if not all, of their debt service levy by sources of revenue that they've identified up front, just like you have talked, like you identified. You can tell the voters, the voters will know what that impact would be, but you also can tell the voters as you educate them, you can't ask them to vote yes, but you can educate them. You can definitely educate the voters that, you know, it is the intention of this council, if it truly is, that we will not levy the property taxes for this general obligation bond that they're voting on, so that they know that they're, you know, that under the current council and the current, you know, plan that you have ahead, you do not intend to levy any property taxes. You absolutely can tell them that in your education that you provided them. Any other questions?
Thank you. You're doing a nice job. I guess I have one question. One at a time when we were talking to you, I know there's different kinds of bonds. Is there something that if we do go with a certain amount that we have to do it for 7 years or something? Is that this bond or is it a different?
Lois,
I think at the time the council was saying, if we used all of those gaming revenues annually, how short could that bond issue be? Likely, there be issue bonds. Most of our cities are issuing for at least 6 years or longer because it's something that we can afford to pay cash for, and I think you need to do the financing, but there are no limitations. So even if we, you know, let's just say you get to the bidding process of it, and everything comes in a little bit less, you get a little bit more money, there's some grants and give them some fundraising that you are anticipating, and all of a sudden you don't need to borrow $8 million because again, it's not to exceed $8 million. We can't borrow more than. If you say, oh, we only really borrow $500,000, and we really don't want to borrow that in 15 years, we only borrow like 13 or 14 years. We can rerun the tax. We can go up to 20 years on that debt service schedule as well. But there's nothing that would maybe going over 7 years or anything like that. So no, ABGO bond would be anything between like a 1 year and 20 years.
I guess what I'm saying is like early payoff.
Oh, right. Okay, I apologize. Yeah,
No, and I apologize. So after you started, I'm not gonna. Sorry.
No. Redemption is again, as I said at the beginning, these funds are investments. So if you work with supervisor yourself, right? Funds, like they get your funds in the center, you're gonna say yes. Well, there's a small feature on those bond funds where you, the city, would hold bonds in and pay them off early, refinance them to a lower interest rate. But the people that are holding these investments want to know that due date or that call feature isn't for another, 6 or 7 years out. So you are correct. On a 15-year bond, we got that about halfway. We got that for June 1st of 2039. Now, again, we're assuming that you're issuing this debt in early 2027. And that's about 18 months from now. So what we got out there is that call feature that's about 7 years. That is again at the time. If you want to, you could pay down on the bonds, pay part of the bond. You could completely pay the debt off. Or if interest rates were lower, and then the 4.5%, whatever, the interest rate is the issues, we would be able to refund those. And when you do a refunding, it should be noted that we do refunding in the municipal bond just out to the original maturity. If I work at my bank and say I'm going to refinance home mortgage, like with banks to go, we'll just go to the and that's not in the bond world. They're going to refund if we need to make sure that there's enough savings to make it worth your while to go through the steps of funding the bond. But we're going to refund out to what the original maturity date was scheduled to be at that extended out. But if you want to write there, it's time when you can't pay them on this bond thing. likely at $800, it is a way to, put that down. You know, it was done anyways, or want to take that action and not have other things going on in the city before you pay them down. You know. So, yeah, good question. Thank you.
So next steps would be, with Dorsey and Whitney, they've are writing the resolution necessity that has the bond language and sample bond language attached in those documents I sent. We would have that at our next council meeting, which would be the August 18th meeting, for consideration. That resolution necessity is effectively what allows us to take that to the county auditor and let's put that on the ballot for November. So that would be our next step ahead of us.
Um, things like that and shows things that given. Actually, for your own, you know, your own knowledge, but it's only like in context was like in your use cash, then that's probably not a necessary tool for you educating the voters in your area. Just to remind you, it is 60% approval of the people that vote. So it's not 60% approval of who's registered to vote. It's physical people that vote in the November election. You must have approval by 60% or above. I just use an example. We have a county that voted on an EMS levy back last November and had failed at 59 weeks, 3%. And that was a failure. So, it really truly is, you do have to have the 60% or above for it to move forward.
And do we have a limited amount of time to act on that then? Maybe so if we get the approval, say things get related to a short period of time.
Yeah, typically there's not because it's not approved. Council would probably tell you that you should be issuing that debt within about 36 months. After this, just because your voter population could change, right? That might be the argument that somebody could say, look, we have this many voters and now we have way more voters and they're against it and this, that. But I would say if you can get that off the ground and the debt issue probably within about 36 months of that vote. That should not be covenant. And I don't foresee that being out because you're probably, from the time that they would vote, you have to really, we'll say, get down to the business of getting finances out, getting it up to bid. You're probably talking maybe 12 months, which is very typical. That is a very typical situation that it takes, from the time of voting, 12 to 18 months before somebody has some kind of issue.
I guess my last question is like, what flexibility do we have in, I guess, term length of the bond? So we have it at 15 right now. Like you said, up to 20. Just depending on the bond referendum is to approve up to $8 million. So if we were in a situation where maybe revenue outlooks change on what we're comfortable paying back on a yearly basis, is stretching that out a possibility when we, I guess, later on rather than now. I know we're doing projections based off of $8 million in 15 years, but is that something we have flexibility with later on if we need to make a different decision?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not to say that leading up to it, and I would say that too, over the next 6 to 12 to 18 months. We just don't know where interest rates are gonna be, right? We've seen them tick up. A couple of years ago, we've seen them come down a little bit, now they're ticking up a little bit. The bond market. We're just in an interest rate market that we haven't been in about 25 years. And so we're just sort of monitoring those interest rates. For example, I just want to take this as an example, if everyone's comfortable with the $745,000 amount of debt service annually, maybe we'll rerun the schedule when we get closer to issuance based on what interest rates are in the market at that time, which could be again in 12 months to 18 months from now. And if interest rates are longer, if you want to keep this. Maybe because interest rates are 3.5%, instead of 4.5%, and we're able to, go down to a 13-year or a 14-year, or interest rates are at 4.5 still, or if we were 4.5, and you guys can help us talk to say, gosh, we really like those payments to be closer to $600,000 a year instead of $745,000. Then we absolutely can extend the debt service schedule before we sell the bonds. But once we've sold the bonds and entered into the debt agreement, then we really can't change the repayment schedule other than when you hit that call feature or that optional redemption feature, you would be able to pay that debt off a little bit earlier at that time. I don't know if that answered your question.
Yep.
Okay, great. Yeah, there's probably the next couple of months for us at Sphere. It's sort of the easy part of this because we've given you that schedules to put on your ballot. We can check over anything, that you're saying that you're educating your folks on, and John Gannell's office can do the same thing. It's after that ballot initiative passes that we have a lot of conversations back and forth. Just as the interest rates adjust, as you get updated amounts based on what the architects and engineers are coming to the final design. That's when we have a lot of conversations is after that approval of that referendum, and things really start to move forward quickly.
Okay. Well, thank you, Maggie. We appreciate all the info. It's very helpful, and hopefully we can keep this path as we move along. We can that's the outcome. So we're looking forward to it.
Well, thanks so much. She'll be
Here.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.
What's that? Nope, we're good.
Water. Letter of non-compliance for the 2024 minor source emission inventory that received on April 8th was in error. The city of Riverside is not required to participate in this inventory, does not meet qualifications of general emissions. We took our gross alpha, combined radium, our TTHMs, our HAA5 samples on July 22nd as well. Those just are new releases. Pig itself, at 5 measurements last month. Intention of painting more, just time allows. Also, weather is constantly raining on and it's
All of the iron service and it's just certain portion.
moving holes in paint, all the ones that need to be painted.
Most years are what they're bright rings,
Pink. Faded pink, yeah.
As my gel screen tubes. Yeah. It's always fun time. Checking over the wastewater. Just have our inspections done this month. Scheduled maintenance as well. We also took a special equalizer as well with the UV system. That came back to 9/10, so that is back up and running. We were getting a high temperature alarm control center in the panel. Was discovered a wiring problem, which has now been resolved. We have received the air pump for the fluid sampler. We can install it well. And we also have the wastewater lagoon sprayed as well. And nothing now, so once that all gets dead on the ground, get in there and cut down the trees. And this works. Questions?
No. I have a question on the generator.
Yeah.
Maintenance schedule. Whose responsibility is it gonna be to make sure that gets scheduled the next time around?
Okay, here comes Sullivan.
Yeah, that should be in their PM list.
Our report. And then it tells us the maintenance with cap. We'll also be doing the pumps for the lift stations, all that within the next month with like a pump. Scheduling them digging into tomorrow.
But.
We should.
We've received them.
You know, this is all for people who are partially city, still like to see the weeds within the fenced area, pumping stations and whatnot being sprayed.
Mhm.
They're awfully green out there at the casino. And the other thing I noticed all summer long is the drive leading back to, I think, pump, or
Well,
well 8.
Yeah.
We need to cut back the overgrowth funds. The drive back there is getting a little out of control. Like I said, I don't know if that's city responsibility or people's.
I think technically that'd be under like the facility maintenance under people service, but how about tomorrow you and Jed drive back there and take a look at it?
Or should we do a different weed killer then? Because I'm out there maybe once a week, spray and weed whack and everything. And
So I think the drive right back to the wells more just read like.
I'm talking about the lift stations.
Oh.
Sorry.
I don't know what we control you're using.
Something that Brian recommended in that gave us.
And I forward on to whatever you
You
sent me.
told them what I'm using pretty good effect.
Yeah. You need to pick up something different to use.
That's what pump says.
Yeah.
The tower will not be able to.
I'm not there, I'm responsibility.
They got a product and they use it.
I want to call there to now, I mean, it's just, if not really, really. What.
Thanks, Brandon.
Sort of the best way to go down. So I was on the.
Thank you.
The resolution of this. Shows. I think that was. What? Obviously, we just discussed to continue on this, the working in the brain.
Yeah, Danielle and I have started working on the remote foundation grant. OPN is sent me a initial design for the banner. It's gonna go on site. Us getting this general obligation bond amount solidified will be helpful so they can get the mailing put together. So there'll be a lot of work going on OPN side of things here soon on that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You need me to perhaps off, do so. Probably.
I don't think we'll have everything ready yet, but Danielle and I have also been reviewing the question submissions that we get from the website and categorizing those and putting those on the website. So we did make some updates last week on that. Let's see. I know I've been trying at least once a week trying to get like a post on Facebook about driving people to submitting questions or a focusing on one area or not. So this week, if you have any suggestions of what you'd like covered, we have quite a few questions submitted by the by residents to review, and I think focusing on one of those topics. And
I think we're fine. Stop. Be nice to have.
Okay.
That's the moment.
Yep. Cost, we can do that. That would be, I think, wellness center stuff for now.
Next, DCC improvements, last couple of days been completed out there. We have talked through it, did the application one last time this year. Yeah, if you would be the final additions that we came and stuff, and one resolution for that for $1,816.77. Unless there are some questions or issues that still like us to address.
Sure. Yep. $31.
ECC improvement. Okay, that was, motion will make by King, second by Schneider, any different discussion? Hearing none, Rogerson, Schneider, else. Okay. Thank you.
Road for Cherry Lane. Continuing to work out there between the rains, pulled together this morning. We'll do another pour tomorrow morning as well on the intersection there, still at Cherry and Schnetland. They are pretty well to do a wrapped, sorry, for the Cherry Lane. Or which originally was scheduled for this week. I still think that makes ready to do that. Getting the final schedule on that, but everything's getting ready to go. Then they'll swap over to the Clifford intersections there and get that to work. Nothing crazy to report. Everything's going smoothly. No issues. Yeah.
Are they pouring that in sections by hand?
Yes, right now they are. Then they'll come with a paper and do the main cherry. Yeah, but all the intersection work is because sure, yeah.
Brian, I meet with Allison on Wednesday,
Yeah.
but with all the rain we've had recently,
Yeah.
are we still on schedule?
We are.
Good. Okay.
Yeah, we are. I did verify too, again, with contracting, there's no issues, no concern there. I'll get that main line will. Quick and easy, that intersection work. We have, I was just double checking, substantial completion by August 13th, final completion in August 22nd. Obviously, we get it at school and yeah, there's no concerns.
Okay.
And that should, yeah,
Yeah, it's coming along.
they're gonna do that. Yeah. So. Yes.
Get the acquisition. We should. Is our ability to record. So it's.
I think we would record both of them after I have to check on I'll have to check on I guess at least one of them would be on our responsibility. I'll have to check, make sure, because we have a clerk certificate for the recording of one of them. I'll have to look at the other one. I'll make note of that.
No, you're good. We also get first half for that $42 and $18.70. Completed today. We'll know we talked about last time. There's that in the state also this is about 3% retained held back right. So, otherwise, yeah, it's covering the work today.
Questions, so that's, I don't know, we might as well. Second. This motion by Schneider, second by Sexton, any discussion? Discussion, we'll take a vote on Mills, aye, Schneider, Sexton, you understand? Aye. That's approved. Thank you.
Pickleball courts, same situation, trying to work between the lanes, we have run into some, things here and there in the ground, that's for sure, If areas of glass, we found, we have a lot of sand, that's for sure, also been found, so we've had a little bit of, issues with drainage and native compaction under where the pickleball courts are itself. Working on a couple remedies there, just adding some additional drain, sub drain to help drain that out of that area, so we have requested to Patrick Bopper for a change order on a couple different items there. We haven't yet got back from the show, I'll get to you soon, we're moving along still, getting everything graded and prepped. Again, with the hard rains and how that kind of lies in that drainage area, grading area there. Working through it, I mean, otherwise, nothing that we can work through at all, but yeah, some things we found in the ground. Here's some, well, very rather than that one.
And there's a
I was
significant,
gonna say, well, that's good.
Yeah.
We're talking dumping site on time with it.
There.
Located roughly.
Yeah, so also to the.
by the barn.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Oh,
It- So yeah, hopefully here for, well, after the next meeting, the chamber to address any of those items. I mean, extends the fight. I think just add a little bit more separate.
So in the future on the project,
Yeah,
that whole part is glass, what do you think? That's the hill, now it's the state, and it's like glass.
We had some glass come out by the boat ramp too, when that
Yeah.
was dug out.
There's glass on eight. So
yeah, no, it's, yeah, we definitely know what you're doing. Actually, that's what it is. Yeah. It's. I'll explain something. But yeah, other than that, we'll keep moving along there. They do have a pay application in front of you as well for the first payout. Again, work done to date, total amount of $5,422.30. Again, with that 3% retained taken out.
questions?
The resolution 2025-54. The application number one involved the Pinnacle and Canada, they were complete on the hall or pickleball courts. The application number one at $5,422.30.
Motion was made by Sexton, second by Schneider, any discussion? Wilson, Key, Sexton, Schneider, Mills.
All right, and then, last time we covered there was the CDBG downtown revitalization. There was a progress meeting, second progress meeting was held on July 9th. Continue to help coordinate, excuse me, with that with the city and then Martin Gardner of architecture as well, who's the prime on that. There's, yeah, a couple items in the engineer's report there, as for the building owners, selecting finishes. I think which have been completed, and then another progress meeting coming up in August. They also have a pay application in front of you too, which would be the second pay application for Cornerstone. For amount of $64,476.20. I don't know, Cole, do you have anything else to add to that?
Not really. As you said, they did, building owners just did, finish, select finishes for the buildings. And some of the comments we got back after the last pay application was on getting like a engineering support on this and kind of a status update. I did ask Bethany some questions about the process that Cornerstone uses for their projects. And although it may not look like there's a lot of like substantial progress going on there, how their approach to it is in more sections. So the alternative is that they could do a full demo in the beginning and have buildings that are all plywood up, and we have to have that for the duration of the project, or they do it in small sections and we don't have our businesses and storefronts disturbed to that degree. So Brian, I don't know if you have anything else to.
Yeah, no, I, with that, I do understand the perception too. Yeah. Yeah. And that, yeah, not necessarily, say with some of these CDBG projects, like I said, it's hard to go tear apart the ones with businesses that. What if we think you go for a while, so. Yeah, not uncommon, but it is, I understand it's a certain.
The installation of it, like once they start working on the finishes and stuff like that, that will be a pretty substantial visual change. But as of now, it's been a lot of like prep work for that and finish stage.
Yeah, and I think they're wrong, but pretty much the data too. I think there was a pretty good gap there. They're waiting for some other selection.
Yeah, they just got that done like last week.
Right.
Maybe before.
To just get windows and get the responsive back.
Colors for all that stuff. Yeah. Fine. 17% completion is what they're showing now.
Roughly what each owner is paying per percentage.
Yep, they paid their building costs. So we receive a monthly payment. So it's basically a 12-month installment plan. So their entire cost of what they're paying is, so say Jody Gaiman's building, Murphy's building is say 200,000. That would be 200,000 divided by 12 is what they're paying us each month. So it's effectively a interest-free construction like installment loan is how it works off. Now, to a degree, they could end up with a building owner that has paid ahead, or you could have one that's lacking behind. But at the end, we have an agreement with them to fulfill all of those payments. The grant, we have a large portion of the funding, and then we have our match. So like we, I don't know if I'm explaining this correctly, but like, so we get paid out monthly as it goes from them. And then at this point, 17%, let's see. Sorry, this thing is. But yeah, I don't know if
Time you'll be maybe a
I
little
ahead or behind.
But
Yes, we get those every month.
Yeah, they're due the first Friday of every month. Everybody is coming.
Yeah, just driving downtown, checking it all out, just gonna say, yeah, sort of, whereas picture, thing, but you know, it's, I mean, not this.
right, but it's something, no, I'll make sure.
Just, I'd like to know,
Yeah.
I have water.
Yeah, the same description of what. Yeah.
And that, there are two parking spaces, yes, I think it's actually, it's pretty,
I'll check that out. So,
first thing they have in there, they have more heads.
yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
As long as you get to this session.
Okay. Pay application number 2. For CDD to install revitalization. $54,476. Sorry. I got them.
I got water fields. Last couple of months.
Oh, it's that. Any discussion on that? Very good, we'll take, if you get a roll call vote on that, Bills, Schneider, satisfied, me, and we can find. We're all about,
Very much ending on something else with.
Feedback. Okay. Thanks, Brian. Thank you. I will go quicker than I've ever gone before. All right, first, we have an ordinance amendment for chapter 55, and protection to control. So we'll do a first reading of this tonight. And I do have 2 motions that you were able to make tonight on this. So it would be, the first one would be to approve the first reading of this ordinance. And then the second would be to waive the requirements of Iowa Code Chapter 380, Section 3, and place this measure on the final passage for adoption immediately. So if you would like, I would be happy to read this for everyone. But effectively, the change here is changing the where you see on item 1 here of 5519. Before that had stated that it was the sheriff was to initiate the proceedings. The sheriff's department has requested, thanks Brian, has requested to be removed from the process and allow us to initiate this in-house. So that would be the change here. So you'll see, you scroll down on 55 section 23, you'll see where county sheriff has been crossed out, city administrator has been added there. So all that really does is just allows us to take action, not having to wait for the sheriff's department to have to initiate the proceedings on a dangerous or a vicious animal. So in the past, when we've had situations like this, I've worked with the sheriff's department on this, but they really prefer this to be a local issue rather than county issue. And
this is a proceeding you want to see in cities in line.
I mean, our city attorney had no concerns that and actually recommend that we make this change too. So it cleans up our processes. I think the more we can control, I guess for our procedures, for something like this, it makes sense for us to initiate the proceedings and use our law enforcement as the enforcement of our law rather than the more judicial side of it, where this, initiates that hearing process. So not something we also eliminates situations where someone doesn't report a bite. So if we have that evidence, we can do that ourselves. So yes, recommended by our city attorney, common other cities.
Motion by Chambers, by Mills to include the ordinance.
Not on this type of ordinance, no. So I guess what I was referring to is like if there was a public, oh, you're talking about input on the ordinance as it states right now. I guess he's attached a memo. It's 9.
Okay.
No, so my memo that I had in here, some, I don't know if it's a different file type, it didn't export with the packet. Sorry for the problems with this packet, but Dan, our city attorney, said Cole attaches the draft ordinance amending sections of chapter 55. These changes remove the sheriff entirely. I also try to streamline things a bit to avoid conflicting sections. In terms of the necessary motions to finalize this ordinance in one meeting, 2 motions is best practice and should be reflected on the agenda so the public is aware of the potential for one meeting passage. Please note that the second motion requires recorded vote of not less than 3/4 of all members of the council. So you'll need at least 4 council members present and all voting in favor of waiving the 3 reading requirement. If you don't have the number or don't get 3/4, this just means you have to do the second and third readings, not that the world just delays passage. So he outlined the first motion would be motion to approve the first reading of ordinance, in this case, 2025-01. And the second motion would be motion to waive the requirements of Iowa Code Chapter 380, Section 3, and place this measure on the final passage for adoption immediately. That is what Dan had instructed me to do with this ordinance. So Al, I guess I took your question as, are we required to have a public hearing for it, not public input? I mean, I think on any item we are allowed to ask for public input on it, but if it would feel more in line with best practice or being comfortable with that, we can certainly do that.
So, should.
Yep.
Well. In that. I see it. It's like in section 2. It starts off by saying, which is alleged to be offending. But then it goes on and starts just specifically talking about a dog.
So you'll see in where it says 5519, it's subsection 1. It's like the start of that first page on 46. So the city administrator at his or her discretion or upon receipt of a complaint alleging that a particular animal is a vicious dog, illegal animal, or dangerous animal as defined herein may initiate proceedings to declare said animal an offending animal. So although I do see you're saying there is some mentions of dog, that establishes that an offending animal or dangerous animal could be more than just a dog or a canine species. Tom, what specifically are you looking at here?
So it says,
Should be, yeah, so I'm referring to, you should just keep stating animal, like you said with a dog, and if you have. It's just something.
If it's just as easy, we can take it back to get it amended so it's holistically includes any kind of animal. I'm happy to take this back and get it. We can update that language because if we're going to do this process to update it, we might as well do it the way that we'd like to have it done the first time. It's no more time other than going to the document, updating those sections for offending animal rather than dog.
so. What?
If that is, I think we have to have this written as it, so just so it's clear, it's, yeah, so we'll have that worded. Yeah. Okay. Make motion withdrawn.
So really.
Is there a motion to table this and then update the language reflecting animal and dog? Okay. Thank you. You can get the update and back at the next meeting. That'll be an easy one. All right. Next thing, I have a deputy clerk position profile. I will say we need some help here in City Hall here, and I got this draft. I know we've talked about it over the course of several meetings in the last few months, but have this written where it's 32 to 40 hours per week. Be more of like an administrative assistant capacity, being able to assist with office coverage and tasks around the office as needed. Rate of pay would be $20 to $24 per hour, dependent on qualifications, but have full range of benefits. So when I give me one second here with I'm gonna tell you what it that breaks down.
So it's got, you know, the office right over here, and this clerk goes behind the wall,
No, the deputy would be here. The deputy clerk would go in this office.
or. Whichever.
Yeah. Oh, that's why I had the wrong one. And look at 2. Here we go. Here we go. So wages on that 20 to, so this is on that $20 to $24 per hour scale. So I did this calculation based off of a 40-hour work week at 52 weeks per year, in that range of 2024. So that would leave us a wage range of $41,600 to $49,920 per year. IPERS would range from $3,927.04 to $4,712.45. FICA would range from $3,182 to $3,818. Phone reimbursement at $600 per year. I did insurance calculated at the max employer out of pocket. That's with the HSA match for an individual who is 65. So that would be their highest end of insurance costs, which would leave us a total compensation range of $61,809.44 to $71,551.33. Of course, that's heavily influenced by insurance coverage there and wages, but overall, I would anticipate that hiring someone for this position would result in a decrease in Stephanie's overtime, as well as increase our reliability for staffing, because right now we're at a point if one of us is out, we're left with just one person, or we've actually had times where it's one of us has, I don't know, we had to kind of, it's a little tighter to figure out schedules, and it's I know you don't take your lunches probably as often as you should, but and there's a lot of things that to get things cleaned up to, I think, a level where we are I don't know, feel like we're more on top of things, we need some extra help. And I think overall, just an extra person here would be helpful, but overall, the main priorities are this, someone who not only is proficient with um just like technology as whole, but also can learn. This is a role that's going to require a bit of flexibility in meeting whatever standards we have. 'Cause I know we have a lot of things that come up, and but anyways, do you guys have any questions about this?
We. You know, and then we, you know, I just feel like. That's kind of better. Putting us on vacation or something, or training, you know, for.
Good.
Do some stuff and she, you know, I guess.
I do have more stuff, news and stuff to talk about here with some updates on these very specific things. But I don't know if you'd like me to talk about that now. Yes.
Already budgeted, correct?
Say that one more time.
We've already budgeted this position in the next fiscal year.
No, there was, we budgeted for more, like it was when we had Becky under her short, I guess we had like a temporary or like a part-time person at a higher rate. For I had that included in there. But I can go back through and show you where we can fund this. But
So we.
yes, we can do that. That's not a problem. It's the um I don't know, it also depends on when this person would begin. So there's probably have this apply by August 30th for now. But realistically, we probably have someone starting mid-September or late September. Maybe even early October, because you'd have a brief interview process for it and all that, but
So I have links. The bottom. Just leave it on the board. So you put it out in this.
yeah, we had that on our older documents, so we probably should get that updated with our city attorney to make sure that that's reflective.
It's mine.
Including,
For these two especially. Teaching, but they have been perfect with the environment, but, the same.
just because I think it is pertinent to the conversation, as Lois mentioned, the nuisance aspect of it. I just to temper expectations, I don't know if we're realistically going to find someone who is going to be able to do all of our asks for things that need to be handled. We very well could be, and that would be absolutely awesome. But there might be, that might not be feasible. But on the nuisance side of things, I've been working with our city attorney on some ordinance updates, and also working with Terry on what they need to do to work together. Obviously, that would be on some of those things, increasing our amount of spending on our city attorney, to be able to get some progress on some of those things, but, one of the, like, lawn and weed nuisances, updating our ordinance potentially to something that would be like a notice by publication only, rather than our current process, which requires us to go out, identify the nuisances, come back to City Hall, draft letters, send individual letters to the property owner, and then wait so many days to address it. And then if they don't, then we can follow up with further action. This would be for smaller nuisances like those lawn and weed, where it's published once per year. We could do a courtesy door hanger, but if they don't have it after that, then we would mow it off at the fee that we have established and, by resolution. So like some of those things I think would be easier to address under with some of those updates. Um, Terry, I've handed him today a list of nuisances to start working on. He has requested that we adopt the International Property Maintenance Code. I sent that to Dan today. We have an ordinance drafted. So have that at the next council meeting as well to be reviewed. So I guess my point is, before we throw those responsibilities on to a deputy clerk or someone we haven't hired yet, I do think it would be a good idea to give Terry the tools he needs to be successful in that. And I think we're just now starting to get there. I think you'd be surprised just how manual a lot of processes we have are. And for good and bad, how labor intensive, some of those things could be, where it is important to provide public notices on things, but also if it gets to a point where some of the processes are to a level of administrative burden that they're not being followed up on, or can be routinely filled, that can become an issue. So overall, I think there's on that front, there's progress to be made with Terry and our city attorney on the side of nuisances that maybe would allow us to get maybe the best of both worlds out of the I guess team elements we do have currently, but
So when you're talking public notice, are you talking newspaper, are you talking a website or what?
yeah, it'd be,
Don't think that people.
that's fair, but I think we have established channels where we can publish that. Other cities do this process as well. We can talk about this. I guess I don't have this specific other than property nuisance. We could talk about it there, but
Well, and I'm speaking for myself. I think that if we have movies, it should be able to be fun for us. The hours to do it. 40 hours. I think once we start forcing it. That's a third of the wages that we need to get to. Somebody should be able to take care of that. Maybe they would have to contact the lawyer occasionally, but if our ordinances are good enough to, fight, I guess, I don't think we should be paying somebody 3 times the amount to take care of it, because, if it's the lawn that needs mowed or a sidewalk, then I don't think we should be paying that kind of money to have Terry taking care of that stuff. I mean, that's my own opinion, but that's a lot of money and that adds up.
I will say, like,
We have the ordinance that support that. It's something that can be, that will be learned, I mean, what do other towns do? I mean, that's what I guess I was wondering, what is low treated, what's fun and what's wrong?
Let's cover this before we start going back and forth on this, or get to the property section.
Okay, so-
No,
that's a good conversation.
I think we want to have a conversation. Yeah.
Okay, I'm on the cleaning. Brian's not that I can do. I mean, my job has 30 years. Was in charge, get a boardroom, front office, and another office, and back. I'm just saying, that hanging over your head to do cleaning. I mean, because then when you get behind on it, then
Like I told before, I'm not hooked on that.
Yeah.
that's
I think-
my opinion. I
When we get to it, I think we have some options that I think.
And then as far as the nuisance goes, if we're going to be adopting something new. Let's wait and talk about all those until we adopt them.
I mean, as always, job responsibilities as right now are somewhat flexible and can be added or changed. I think my whole point with like, not that we can talk about it during nuisance, proper nuisance section, but the point is making amendments to our code of ordinance so that they can be more easily fulfilled, because right now, as things are written and the other responsibilities that we have, it's maybe not the most feasible for those type of nuisances to get to all those, but that's what I was gonna say.
Post this, yeah, just change the bottom. Like I said,
Yep.
so we don't get
That,
If we decide to post this, we're not going to
no,
post it.
see what kind of skills they have.
To talk.
Sure, if you'd like, you can do that. Yep, be fine.
you think.
No, that'd be fine. Oh, I guess I was gonna say how I thought about going about the hiring, would, believe as I mentioned it, Alan, in here. Yeah, so I thought a small committee that would be myself, Alan, Stephanie, and then just because Stephanie would be directly involved with this individual, and then a council member to be part of it. This isn't gonna be I think as big of a hiring process that we'd have for the city administrator or city clerk position, but we do. I I was planning on taking care of the initial interviews, screening those out, and then we'd have one time we'd meet for the final in-person interviews with those candidates, and then decide from there. Ultimately, come back to city council for approval as well. But I figured for that would streamline this, get a help we need, and keep moving forward. So I guess if that approve a motion, and if there was someone who wanted to, a council member who is wanted to volunteer to be a part of the hiring committee, that would be. Keenan?
So motion Melissa, additional discussion. All those opposed?
Beautiful. Yes, I have some options for city hall cleaning. I got quotes from 2 services, they're locally in the area. And then 4 individuals who were interested. So the individuals ranged from $10 to $50 an hour. There was a couple of them that I felt would be good, and then the services were $200 a week or $300 a week. So I think with what we've gotten back, maybe hiring one of the individuals on like a part-time basis, for, it'd be no more than 2 or 3 hours per week for weekly cleaning, to do it would be at least a lot cheaper to try out, and, but
Do we know the difference on if they're supplying their own chemicals and vacuums and
So the services would bring in their own equipment and they have their own like cleaning materials. We would just have to, I guess, provide any of the paper products, the paper towels, toilet paper, that sort of stuff to be replaced. For the individuals, we would be responsible for the equipment, which we already have, all of that. And then we'd be responsible for any kind of cleaning solutions, things like that, but they would, a part of that, their responsibilities would be indicating what things need to be refilled or replaced as part of it. So
I prefer that you be insured.
both of the services did provide insurance to me as well. So
Individual claiming it sounds good, but I prefer just me, prefer to be insured. If you're looking at individual, do you have an idea what Don was doing for hours?
I mean, it was, like I said, no more than a couple hours of what you'd have. Because his hours during the week, he would mow and water flowers, then Saturday mornings or Saturdays, he would come in, it would be only for a couple hours, he'd vacuum, wipe things down, and that was.
I would say it was an average of an hour and a half to 2 hours every Saturday.
Correct, yep, so,
It would be part-time, so you wouldn't have to pay
Yeah.
the insurance, it would just be.
Well,
I'm a little leery about. If somebody's gonna do it and not be an employee, I'm saying no. Early career insurers.
we can't legally we can't contract someone unless they are providing that service to other businesses, things like that, so we can't just 1099 an individual because they wanna clean for at City Hall, they have to have an established business with a clientele, or they are a part-time employee, so those are,
Oh.
yeah,
so
yeah. Yeah. I mean, the primary responsibilities would be vacuuming, cleaning the bathrooms, doing like, so that would be toilets, sinks, mirrors, replacing paper products, doing a sanitizing mop in there, picking out trash, recycling, collecting those and put them in the cans, um, wiping down the inside of the windows, kind of spot cleaning here and there. Like those would be the bulk majority of the cleaning. So vacuum would probably be one of your larger time consumers of that, just the amount of carpentry we have. So
Have you talked with that? Wearing my. Part.
not talk to Dwight about this. No, have not.
So they're doing here on the weekend and supervised.
Not necessarily weekend. It could be anytime. I think the preference would be to minimize disturbance would be outside of business hours. I mean, ultimately, you're gonna have to extend the same level of trust to, as you did, or as you did with Don in the past on this. Um, that or they're here during business hours, which I think we would prefer not to have that, but, um, yeah, I guess without, like, they'd have to have some kind of key or, so we don't have access control set up or anything like that, but.
you said they have revenue control.
Correct, yes, both of the services. Both of the services provide references and then the individuals are local and I did not request references from there. Honestly, I just asked what they'd be willing to do it for. I walked them through what it would be as far as the I asked them like with given these job responsibilities, I walked them through, show them what it was, and asked them to submit what they felt would be um, what would be a good rate for them to do it. And these are the responses I got. I didn't go any further with it because I didn't know how serious you guys were wanting to consider it,
Well,
but
I mean, it's like. You know, 2 hours.
certain things that. We might.
Yeah, like I don't think he cleaned out some of the windows every week.
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
other-
that's fine.
Either.
Yeah, I honestly, based off of what the cost would be, there is an individual that would be $15 an hour plus IPERS, Medicare and FICA. That I think was at that rate is worth giving a shot. And based off of my interaction with them, I mean, be comfortable giving them an opportunity. But that's also to say I think there's one or two other people on here that I think also, would be in that same category, but that would be good. But I guess if you were okay to allow me to make the decision on who would, if you're okay with, say, that $15 an hour plus IPERS and Medicare and FICA at a couple hours a week, I'd be happy to take care of that. Would be. Yeah, it's not, it's that's what we learned, I guess this past January is that it's not on hours work, it's job classification. So even if it's they work 2 hours a week, they're still IPERS. Yep. So there's what you could do a temporary, if they were in temporary employment. Yeah. So if they make less than $1,000 in covered wages and consecutive quarters, or they work less than, I think it was like 2,040 hours per year, but that's also considering that there is no agreement or active employee relationship involved. That would be because that's what we have ran when we hired Dwight. That was part of the consideration because it is an ongoing relationship, even if it's only a few hours a week. It's still covered.
Can I see before we do this? What all of that cost? IPERS, hourly,
Yeah.
workman's comp.
Yeah.
These people, great individuals, are they all have this previous work of cleaning, or is it someone you just found to do?
3 of them I know have experience doing cleaning for like other small businesses and things like that. Or if, yeah, had experience doing it. So I guess honestly, it's not a skill set that I'm overly concerned about someone having an in-depth amount of experience. I think it's more of finding someone who's willing to do it. And
So that's what,
Yeah.
it's just someone saying, yeah, I'm gonna give it a shot and do it 1 week, says, not for me anymore.
I didn't get that impression from the people I talked to that they were pretty serious about looking for like a little side hustle of getting there for a few hours. I mean, I can put that together, a little spreadsheet and send it out Friday. So, yep. So, sorry. Mhm. No, I guess, Alan, as I understood, I can check with Dan on this again, but the this temporary, it's based off of it's a temporary status. So the those, I guess, the $1,000 in consecutive quarters, or I think was it 2,080 hours per year is what establishes an ongoing relationship if you are already a temporary. So if you are hired under a part-time employment, then you would be already, that would be an ongoing relationship with an employer at that point. Now, if you were to state this as, hey, this is a temporary position, you wouldn't have to pay IPERS on that. But I also think that's kind of circumnavigating the intent, but
Yeah. Would. Did we pay?
I think so. I'll have to pull that.
Well, there's security then, the point.
I can verify it with Dan before you and have it as part of the spreadsheet just as the verification, so that's fine. Okay. Let's see here. This is just gonna be for informational purposes tonight. I've created a master fee schedule for the city. The plan is that anything that's set by resolution, we could update all in one resolution on here. So I've stated, you'll see where it says like RMC, that's Riverside Municipal Code, that's our code of ordinances. We could adjust those in a resolution. Those need to be set by ordinance, or the ordinance would need to be amended to allow it to be set by resolution, which some of those things, it makes sense that they're set by resolution, like utilities. But anything like down like here, like city, like rentals, miscellaneous fees for copying, or even things like building permits, all of that set by resolution. I did my best to pull the source material for all of these fees and find where they originated. Truthfully, there's some of them I don't know where to find, but I know what we currently charge. So my thought was that since we are needing to update our building permits and some of these fees, is that we would update it in one resolution with this as the master fee schedule. And then moving forward, we would just have one thing, one resolution to amend or repeal. So we always can trace what's the most up-to-date version of our costs. So just informational purposes tonight, I also included Kelowna's building permit fees, as well as the ICC, the International Code. I don't know what the other C is for, but they're what they have for the standards of fees. But on Kelowna's fee schedule, just to bring those two, we don't currently have established a basis evaluation for properties. So on their building permits, when they estimate what the building valuation is going to be, which is effectively what the permit cost is going to be, we don't currently have a basis for that, which is something we need to establish. And then also these other inspection fees on page 56. We don't currently have those listed on our building permit. So things like using outside consultants. So if someone needed to have like Lund Fire, who does our like commercial sprinkler systems or things like that, we would want to make sure that we're able to recoup our costs, and those are incorporated. So anyways, don't expect any discussion on that tonight, but just want to let you just wanted to make you aware of that. So I do have an RFP for our fiscal year 2025 audit that I've drafted, and this is ready to be approved and sent out. So I have proposals being due August 29th. We would contract September 15th. This is pretty much the same RFP that we used last year, except we're issuing it a lot earlier, and I've updated the revenue amounts to be reflective, and some of that informational stuff to be reflective of our most current fiscal year and last audit. So so we will publish this in the paper. or like a notice that this is available. It'll be on the website. We'll send it directly to the state auditor's office. And then if you have any other places you'd like us to post this, we can, but just the usual channels, we can put on the website and two. So GBK and the state auditor's office. Yeah. We can do that. I think by getting this out earlier it allows us to do that, where I think we were pretty late last year with it, and a lot of places have already kind of booked up for their schedules, and right now we're getting this done early. Actually, I don't think I've seen too many other cities have their audit RFPs out yet, so hopefully we can take advantage of that and get some early pricing. If you guys would give me a motion to get that published, I'd appreciate that. Yes.
Discussion. Not all those in favor say aye.
Okay, next I have a request for proposal for rescue fire engine. This is to get bids. This is, I created the cover page on this. You'll see pages on page 68 through page 71. And then, Chad had supplied me with, some specifications you'll see on page 72 through, I don't know how many pages later. There's a lot of them in there.
Okay. Once you put the RFP for the rescue fire and
The only, I guess, recommendation I had, and this is, I've talked to Chad about this, and Alan and I have talked about this too. Pretty good extent, is that, I know Chad is pretty partial to single source manufacturer. I think it would be in our best competitive is that we allow, for, both single source and, non-single source manufacturers. I mean, it's still a quality on the bid spec, so we'll know if they are or are not, and that'll be in the consideration of the quality, because if you look at what our, we have compliance with specifications, apparatus quality, performance, vendor qualifications, experience, warranty, costs, so on and so forth. Yeah, I agree. So, but so Chad had this based off of a build spec that he had worked with, I think their current apparatus filter. So I honestly don't know where to start on defining a build spec for this other than what I have, but yeah. Mhm.
I think I'd be on the side and it'll be even 100 pages, but.
There's a lot in there, right?
That's typical.
Me, yeah. Region, I guess.
I like to say anything that is not, does not meet this, just note that in their.
Any kind of variance from the specifications, they have to indicate that, which
I think it's surprising there is no.
I don't want to, like, the thing is, I want to make sure we have a competitive process and we're not discouraging anyone from submitting who is interested. I think we have some high level specifications of what we'd like. Obviously, the rescue engine with the rescue space, a pump at 1500, I think it's at GPM on there, and a tank of 750 gallons. It's pretty standard. Some of those things we are pretty high level, but when it gets to the granularity of what specific things are, I think that's a little bit beyond, but yeah.
And some of this stuff is pretty sick. Like location of the depth tank, ignition shifter, he wants this gear rate he was on, and fine, give it.
I guess, I'm just gonna go to what percentage of they give them to put this down. I just think that
Well, the fire department was a city department, so effectively, whatever we were paying out of pocket, the department paid out of pocket. We are the city. They're a city department, just like streets and parks. So like, we also have a substantial amount of money coming back. I think still, I think around $800,000 from the insurance claim for this. We can put towards a replacement. But I guess I don't know. Maybe I didn't mean to cut you off, Lois, but whatever is out of pocket, whether it comes out under the fire department or budget, it's effectively still city dollars.
I guess.
I mean, the whole purpose of this is to get bids.
I think 1 2 weeks or so. I think that because we don't have to opposed, at this time. I think this is a big purchase. I think that somebody that might have a stating that's sitting here. I mean, it was clear down to like, I thought it was like folders and stuff. You know what I mean? It's like, that's why I was wondering, is it one company built this or?
That's sort of more of it's pretty specific to one brand and
Yeah, I guess
I kind of excludes anyone from bidding that, well, we can do that in the brand, so.
right. I think that there, especially with nobody here to represent them tonight, I feel this is a lot of pages of, just for me to sit here and go, I accept
Be
it.
a lot of anybody.
And maybe I'm like, I didn't have time to read anything either, but it's not like I totally understand. I trust these guys that
I disputed this. I mean, what I browsed over was that it was a general something they came up with, and whoever bids on it can say, hey, we didn't meet this portion of it.
and
Well, I can understand someone's specific on the actual cargo type box that has to be built. But earlier on, I mean, he makes a statement, they want chrome lug nut covers. Yeah. Seriously, and they stainless steel through cab windows, the windows shall measure 18.70, which is why I 20 say. We didn't have to, we didn't go years with this level of specificity, probably. This thing is on by one, this many people to be able to fit in a thing that, and they
Generated build spec off of what they have there. This is
now. And I understand they respond to that. It's required. There's a lot of that.
I agree. So
and what work being solved, what I mean.
without
You think it's kind of.
I don't even know. Then I won't get rid of it.
Okay, help me,
What they might. Thing, speaker, you know, they have something that's equal. I don't know.
help me problem solve this one just for a second. So I completely agree that we need to have this be, we have general specifications for what's important. And that these are things that we can grade upon as far as if they fit or not. Just to make sure that we do have comparable performing vehicles. How do I guess, go about determining which of those things, as I think a few of you said, not an expert on fire apparatus design. How do I go about creating a generalized spec that can be, I guess, effectively compared across multiple vendors, yet still account for the important items and not.
So, Kelowna just got a month last week, right? Well, yeah,
These don't, something.
ask Ryan what they sent out for specs. And the part needs to be more balanced for that because with the, we can adjust it. But I rode around in that at the Riverside meeting when I presented it. So.
Guarantee these stuff.
And I apologize that I did not look at this. I mean, I'm looking at.
I don't-
looking at the steel bracket required for the
Hopefully, there's a lot on here.
So your cover sheet that you put together for this. whole
Yes.
Section 2, that's apparatus specifications. Where did you get those?
Yeah.
Chassis.
No,
Chassis.
that is something I purely created myself. Yes. I just thought high level, as someone who is dangerous enough in the conversation to be able to understand high level what the things are, but not specifically what everything is. Like these are the things I thought of that would be important components.
That's.
Like a balls, we different stuff, we specialize in feeling. In a little bit, yeah, it's a lot of money, and I think we need to have fairness in.
I like the balance of, so you can ask you what he said, have them show you the email and set yours.
Mhm.
And then also I would talk with Lloyd and just go.
Maybe. Maybe, but, talk to a couple chiefs, like, or something that, how they come up with their RFPs and stuff.
I mean, for television, you can have 20 pages.
Or 40 hours.
And to me, okay, this is a silly question, but do they start out with the basic truck and then this is all added? I mean, you know what I mean?
Actually,
Yes.
That's what it means, so it's kind of like, is this
I guess.
basic? What's the, I don't know, I just saying that I think, but this kind of might be. We need to have,
And Tosh and Paul, we need a functional fire truck. It surely comes standard. And the fire department gets to put their specialized tank equipment, pressure, blah, blah, blah. To make that truck what works for Riverside. All this stuff you're looking at in there, the farther you go, it's like, oh my lord. How would anybody get a fire truck that has all this in it? No. there's gotta be a way to do this. I'd be real curious if Cologne just went through and got themselves a pretty new truck. What did they go through when they did?
I guess, I think it sounds like we need to go back to Chad and ask him what are the important things as far as high level, what are the important things you want to compare on? What are your, say if it's 20 most important things? Well, I think we should determine what are the most important things that we want to compare on. Everything else is just kind of, I'm not saying gravy at that point, but we account for important elements, and then outside of that, it's really up to, we can look at that as an itemized build spec, so.
Just looking through this list of pretty able to, running down it, just came across which I would even consider even asking for or needing was the additional roof truss. They wanted to withstand the crush force of 110,000 pounds, 4.5 times the low criteria. I mean, that's something I would even consider necessary, but is it required?
Well, some of that stuff, I guess, I'm not sure, I did include sorry, my computer died. Going through all that, but, I did, cite, I think there's a set of standards for, there's a set of standards for, fire apparatus build that I quoted in there. So I'm assuming something like that's a safety requirement should be set standard by, I guess it was whatever you see on there, the acronym 1901. That's the set of standards for fire apparatus build. Safety like that should be established in that, but.
Able to be, you know. If possible, if they're interested. Limited.
I think I got direction from here to go back, get what are the most important things, create a spec sheet, a short spec sheet on those important things, and then the bidders can submit what their actual builds are. And if you want to compare for quality on some of those smaller things, we have the right to do so, but we want to make sure we're hitting our big targets. So, yep. All right. Update, I guess, Streb has still not paid Stump Construction. I've talked to Steve a couple times and it's, I guess last I heard from him was I think last week or the week before, and insurance is still, what he's told me, insurance is still dealing with that, so. I need to follow up with, Chad and Tina. No.
Yeah.
The size of the project that would be taken. Big channel. So.
I mean, we have it on the agenda. I can tell you what the amount is if you would, honestly, if you wanted to. So I'm in front of me right now. The proposal that I had before was to pay the amount with not the finance charges. It would just be the amount for it. And then we would go forward with the surety bond claim to try to recoup that from construction.
Let's, and then we'll ride on the insurance for a little bit longer, saying,
Okay.
and then we'll revisit. Is what I would prefer.
Like I said, so I don't think that it needs to be the next agenda or.
Alan,
No, I don't think it's on something.
This ain't the end of the world, get paid, it's been going on long enough. You know, I don't care about hurting somebody's feelings and all anymore. Take care of your responsibilities.
it was $5,854.80.
Yeah. It just never appear on bills you paid.
We brought it to a city council meeting, it had all the information there, and we didn't put it on the expenditure. Oh, no, because it wasn't the city, it wouldn't have been necessarily city response.
We can. But 2 months ago, it's all essential.
Because I never brought it to you because it wasn't our responsibility to pay. Where, I mean, effectively as the project owner, I mean, I think you could make a case there, but we're not the ones who are at fault for it. So I had Brian go back to, I think at that point would have been Carter Associates or Streb trying to send this in, hey, they need to pay this. It's not our responsibility. This is a result of. So that's where it stood for the longest time and why it only took it until like the last, 4 months or so to actually come back to city council. I never brought it to you because it frankly wasn't our responsibility.
No, go back to page there.
Saying, hey, you know what I mean? So. Yeah, a year later, too, but at this point,
Yeah, I'm just,
yeah, I let them say, but I think it's 2020. So.
I went back through all the emails. I mean, every single one of them when I talked to Steve about it, and yeah, it just was not brought up as that it was the city's responsibility.
Frankly, I never brought it up because I never expected it to actually get to this point. I thought it would get paid and be done, and then
He said,
$5,854.80.
yeah.
okay, to. But it needs to be worded, so I just want to be careful about.
We'll pay the outstanding amount.
And we'll go leverage, right?
Yeah, just, I'm gonna make sure it's worded properly, that we, if we have to go further, that it's, So.
So as long as this is going to somebody that's gonna eventually pay this bill besides the city. Well, it wasn't our responsibility.
Streb has filed, I don't know if it was something with Carter Associates Insurance or their insurance, but has submitted there. And if that doesn't end up getting paid, then we would also have the surety bond that we talked about with the project, that basically it's a coverage that in the situation of this where there's outstanding liability or bills that haven't been paid, that sort of thing, where you can make a claim that if it's not your rightful responsibility, that the party that would be, it's basically an insurance mechanism to make sure that the I guess whoever's responsible is held responsible for it and pays what they're owed. So we're not left on the hook for someone else's bill.
How many years?
And I'm honestly not sure when we made the original claim. So we still have an active claim. It hasn't been canceled. So we already have a claim filed for that. As I instructed Dan, it wasn't to cancel until the payment has been made. So I guess it doesn't really matter. At this point, we have an active claim.
The rub is That's the whole thing.
Any other discussion?
All right. As I mentioned, some things a nuisance at this point. I will say we have some stuff in the works with our city attorney on ordinance updates. And I met with Terry today, gave him a list of outstanding properties to start on. Yeah, that's, I guess, what I have for you right now, but international property maintenance code. Yeah, it's that. Okay. Outdoor warning siren system, we're up and running. They have county's gonna do, a test. We'll have, people on site for that to verify those go off. But I'm waiting from direction from the safety center on coordinating that test. So status is green on ours, everything's looking good, so that's. Once the tests, we can, complete that, we'll go ahead and get the siren down here downtown, next to City Hall here removed. So that's where we're standing there. It didn't format very well, so it's not in the packet, but there is an Iowa League of Cities annual conference September 18th, 2025. I thought that might be something good for Stephanie and I to both go to for a day. Thursday is really the bulk of the workshops, and all day I think we would carpool there. But I think it was registration was like $265, I think, per person to attend. But I need to ask the league if, since we're not staying, I'm not sure if that would have any price implications, but anyways, it would be workshops all day, everything from the basics of Iowa's prop tech system, practical uses of AI for city governments, implementing zoning strategies for housing readiness. This one's on dogs, cats, snakes, lizards. Telling your story at social strategies for local governments to amplify their message. Let's see. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. Yeah, I've gone in the past, and it's been the annual conference is always very good. It would be a day, so the options would we could either close City Hall or someone like Deb, who we haven't had in for a while at this point. Maybe we'd have a deputy city clerk. I don't think we would probably yet, but anyways, we do have some options on how we could keep City Hall open, but the 18th is after a due date for water bills, so it's not going to be a super busy time, but we'd have to coordinate that.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve it. Well, in the whole time. I will leave the city's in the conference, so it's good. Yeah, it's check.
All right, any additional discussion on that? If not, all those in favor say aye.
Stephanie, I'll let you do financials. Do you have anything?
No, nothing ground shaking here. Doing really good with the, we actually have a surplus of people paying their water bills in advance lately, so, yeah. I don't know if it was due to vacations or what, but so, our financials are above what they normally are because we are holding some funds. Nothing out of the normal this past month at all. Yeah, the one thing I would still like to look at is investing some of that money back into iPay. I would prefer iPay over anyone else because it is liquid if we need it. We can withdraw it at any time. But we definitely need to figure out how to reinvest the money that we had in those thoughts.
There is, Sheldon City Administrator had a really good article a couple months ago about strategies for cities to maximize interest earnings. And I can pull that. That might be something interesting to read, but neither here nor there. But folks, it's been a late one. I think we've had a lot on here.
And I don't know if you realize this, but these are all zeros on this page. Two. We made progress.
We can, I guess.
Say. 15-minute trip there, 15 properties are absolutely ridiculous. I'm not for going light on people in this town when most of the town cleans their properties so look good and be proud of it. Those that choose not to need some consequences. I know our process is very intensive, labor, whatever needs to go away, and we need something different. How we get that done out, but I'm gonna put the hammer down, not lift it up and throw it away. Some of these, right, you can't read house numbers on the front, they're so overgrown. Some are repeat offenders. I got a whole different way of looking at how to handle some of that stuff, because it really gets on my nerves. Just like the property across from me that's been that way for 20+ years. I would like to know, and we can work on this if you'd like, who owns that property? Who's responsible for taking care of it? And where are we in our process of doing something about it? It is poison ivy infested. It's got to be full of rodents of whatever, ticks, insects. There's rotten wood. There is more stuff on that one little half a block property. It's ridiculous. I want to know how to get it cleaned up. I'm all in for putting some extra effort if that's what it takes, but I'm only one person. But I'm not for letting people off the hook. No. I want responsibility taken for everybody in this town. We have ordinances for a lot of other stuff that we talked about, nuisance items, and like all this native plantings, flowers. If you can't differentiate around what is a flower and what is a foxtail and weed and horseweed on city property because you're too lazy to mow, I think it looks like crap. And there's a couple different places in town. I just noticed one on Highway 22 that's ridiculous. So that could be a long process of how to get to that, but people that mow the yards take care of the property and do care about their neighbors and everything. When everybody else is just lazy and no one do something, I am not for that.
And I would say one of the properties we put in steps so they could get their mowers down there and take care of it.
It's ridiculous. On Third Street,
That's what I'm saying. That trip, it's still probably a foot high.
oh, it's
Well,
well,
I mean, that was the excuse, so something like that, you have to be taken care of. Immediately, it's like, okay, yeah, I actually agree with some of them.
so Cole, we're quick. Where are we? I know we have an intensive, labor-intensive process. And it's not working. I mean, I started on nuisance items when I started on the council 4 years ago. We haven't made any progress anywhere on anybody's properties. You know, really. They are repeat offenders and it's going and going and going. I'm really, really fed up with it. Maybe it's some of my new medications make me crabby. I don't know, but I'm really fed up with it. So I want to know how we get to a process that is effective, time, whatever, through our lawyers or whatever, but you got properties in the state that they're in right now, you get more than 5 days to clean it up. That's a God's blessing. You know, giving somebody 30 days, you could need to mow your yard 3 times in that amount of whatever. So
We had talked about having
Dan or somebody from Lynch's side. I seem to remember that they said they had some nuisance experts. I don't know. Yep. They wanted it, something was the practice, but they talked about it having him come in and whoever else do a work session.
But I just met with was it Dan last week. But so that's where this sparked the conversation of needing to amend some of the, like I mentioned, the grass and weed ordinance to, like a notice by publication only. We can talk more about that, but that would simplify the process there. I've also met with, Terry as well on what he needed, and that was where the International Property Maintenance Code is. Dan has sent me back a draft today on an ordinance for us to adopt in our next council meeting on that. So there's potentially two elements addressed there that allow us to be more effective at this. But I also talked with Dan about how we can have Terry partner with Lynch Dallas to be able to, I guess, take care of some of the larger properties and things like that where so Jamie, who is Dan's legal assistant, has a like a oh, it's a SharePoint, but it's a link where you can submit files, pictures, like all the information on the property, and then they'd be able to draft a notice and then send that. That would be, I guess, compliant with what our code of ordinances requires for follow-up. What we've had happen in the past when we've done this is I've sent off, actually it was David gave me pictures of that. I sent it to the Lynch Dallas team. We had letters sent off. Then the property owners came back to me, asked me, well, this isn't right, and then ends up where I'll be honest, once it hits my table, my desk there, it can fall off as I don't have the consistency. I think that is, I guess, the consistent time available to put towards nuisances while simultaneously addressing the other priorities. So with this case, I'm trying to remove myself from it. So it is initiating from Terry to Lynch Dallas, and then the properties are going to have to communicate between our city attorney and them. This is, frankly, it's going to be a little more expensive to do it that way. But if that's the result you're looking for, I think that's, a process that can achieve that. Yeah.
Again, feeling stuff. Every day. Should be, putting them. Door or something and giving them. I'm like, no, we don't give them 30 days,
That's what I'm trying to get to.
So to the point that you're putting a hanger on their door, they're already 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks past doing what they should have done. Then you give them another no. I'm really tired of that process.
And one of our league of cities meetings we did for council members, there was a speaker at one that, and this, it's just not Riverside, several cities have the same issue. And what they have done, as they follow the ordinance, every spring, say for mowing lawns, every fall before winter snow removal, they put a notice in the paper, and that is everyone's one free get out of jail card. This is your first notice. And after that, the ordinance kick in, you start either getting fined or the work is done by an outside source and you're charged for it.
Well, exactly. You're not going to get anywhere if you don't hit somebody's pocketbook.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, as you have to do it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, the price goes up. Otherwise, you're just hired on a lawn care company that's going to come. They're going to get it done for a certain price. That's not what the city needs to be getting into the business of. If we have to go take care of something, you got to pay somebody to go take care of it.
it should be on the homeowners end that takes the brunt.
And everybody that it would affect has water bills. Yeah, if they don't read the notice in their water bills, that's their problem. If we need to beef up the ordinance, we need to beef them up. And like I said, they, you know, I'm sure some of you could put it in every month, the same thing, they wouldn't see it, not our problem. You know, that's what the notices are in there for. So if you missed it, you know, that doesn't say in the ordinance that because you missed it, then you got a jail.
Well, that's what this, like, notice, by publication only approach to weeds and lawns would allow us to do is where it is published once at the beginning of the season, and then we could issue door hangers as courtesy. By ordinance, we would be required to, but we could put a door hanger and say you get 3 days to do it. If it's not done in 3 days, we call either Brian and Logan does it, or we would call in someone like a local contractor to do it, which is likely the route we take. We'd hire someone to do it, and they would have to pay the cost of it. So that's what that would allow us to do. Currently, the process is, as I mentioned, you have to drive around town. If we issue door notice, we put that on there. We write that down, bring it back to City Hall. Sometimes the first time we don't write a letter, it's just the door notice. Sometimes it'll take care of it. If it doesn't, we write a letter and draft that and send it out, and you have that notice in it. And then if they don't do it, then you can do it. But it ends up, there's a lot of steps involved with a lot of weight in between them where it's prone to falling off. And at the end of the day, like, it's not conducive to the outcome, which is getting it taken care of and holding our community accountable. But I also think that part of it is, you know, community members holding their community members accountable too, as part of it, where these are, I don't know, it's a lengthy process,
I
but
know it's really pain in the ass. You keep right. 15 days with all the rain and stuff's growing like wildfire. I mean, I have a hard time taking care of 2 properties in 2 different towns, so that I do it and I get it done. Because that's what you should do. People that don't, I really think they should be held accountable.
The other thing is, I remember when Dan Spurgeon interviewed, they have a large number of cities, all different kinds. So again, maybe you can suggest what works here, what works there. I mean, you know.
I'm willing to own part of it where our city attorney can only do with what they're told and what they've. And frankly, I have been quite preoccupied with other things where it's getting that information to them has not always been the most feasible. So that's why bringing Terry into the process, getting another person in City Hall, I think opens up more opportunity for taking care of some of those things. But
Don't be yourself, you've done a good job.
Yeah. I understand if
To come, like I said. You know, and I just think it's good practice for them. You know, we had David come, you know. Then they know what their expectations are. You know, you have to be. You know. So that's usually true. I'm always thinking, my opinion, but then.
well, I understand with the frustration about sorry, my brain's not working too well. I was gonna say,
Well, I think just sitting here in conversation, the majority of the council members will see more action on this nuisance. So we gotta move forward.
Yeah. Boy, have a job for you, Bill.
This one is not simple. It's wrong. You see.
Yeah.
You pick center. He's out there. Friends, smaller, like, kids are.
I mean, the blowing grass in the street, there was like 3 places around town already. Called our storm, so you know, Mother Nature treats us bad enough, let alone everybody contributing on purpose. I just don't want to condone that activity anymore. And like, you know, that happens.
I don't think we're condoning it, but
I'd love to go out there and get to leave or out get street. Well,
First date?
you know, have a vacation or something that.
I'll provide this. Right. Necessarily the way we should go or not, but just, I think Ryan Swallow told me that they have in the past. The us with the city council on it, in this case, we include representatives from Winchell and Terry. Had a list of Kevin's properties to start or whatever we want to work with. Here's the address, here's the issue with it. Drive around town and actually look at these properties, have Dan or whoever give us feedback on which of ours are, which ones are easy, which ones are going to take a little while due to the legal work, and kind of put together in how we start to address these.
Work session.
Session. Yeah. They would be able to.
I like that's good.
no, that's a great idea.
What we're doing is something forward.
This situation. Need to process for everybody, we can actually see, get Kevin's list, if we can see what we're talking about. Dan has a good idea then of exactly what we're talking about, he can say, yeah, that should just be a letter, and then I'll edit it out. So, you know, we have to do this.
I know we're on the meeting with all the same.
What needs to get done?
What I would suggest, you know, if everyone up here will split the effort to check properties out around town and make their own list. And add it to Kevin's, and I mean, Cole maybe compile and say, 5 councils agree that this property here is definitely a nuisance. Or this property is just one person's nuisance, so.
Yeah.
Encourage everybody drive. I know, but the prioritize. Encourage everybody to drive up on the street and look at Herman's old property. They have somebody taking pictures there today. And I'm like, what do you think of pictures of? All you're gonna do is foliage and trees. You can't even see any of the rest of it. I am so sick of looking at it, I could just yuck. I'll give you my stuff here. Right, so I think that's an excellent deal. Let's see about this thing. Well, down one.
Hopefully adjourn.
Oh my God, it's sunroof thing.
Where's my text and something like me, all those in favor say aye. We finally, adjourned at 8:31.
Pick up the phone now, I mean, sitting. Thanks, guys.